And if you ask yourself, how does actually the composting pile smells? The fresh one, the healthy one, is supposed to smell like soil, just a regular soil, not like anything else. Hi guys, welcome to this channel that is called Is It Sustainable? I'm trying to figure out what is the most sustainable way to deal with our food scraps. I'm doing composting for almost 6-7 years. So I've been through different process, trying to figure out things, through the process when I was like, I'm so lazy to do it. And now it's just a routine to me. It's almost like asking myself, am I gonna brush my teeth? I guess I will, I need to. So composting is part of my routine and I really want to inspire other people to do it as well. I can do that by helping you solve your main issues that you can come up with and also talk about frequently asked questions to keep your composting pile fresh, non-smelly, non-stinky, and work really fast, so decompose really fast. So the number one important thing for composting is actually air. So basically, if there is no airflow, things start to rot instead of decomposing, start to stink. So if your composting pile is aerated, then it's fine. For example, my thing doesn't smell because the vermicomposter I use, it's Warm Factory 360. So it has these layers has holes, and that's the reason why it's done in these layers. So there is actually an airflow. It's good for worms and it's also good for the decomposition process. For example, for the backyard, you can use tumblers. I will link those devices down there so you can check what it is. So it's something that you rotate a few times, that's how it's get aerated. Well, the second most important question of making your composting right is what you put inside. I already did the whole video about everything that can or cannot be put in the composting. Please check the link below. Here I want to talk to you about the principle, about the mixture of brown matter and green matter. And brown matter is not what you think. Let me explain what I mean. In general, like brown, it's something that's already dead. For example, dry leaves, cardboard, and things like, wood chips, little twigs, especially when they're dry, they are considered brown matter. Something that is fresh, let's say like fresh fruit peels, fresh veggie peels, they're green matter. They say that the best ratio between green and brown is 2:1. Obviously, you don't need to weigh things and see, does my proportion works well? You just have to be more consistent to create a variety. So like every time I dump a lot of fruits that are juicy, that are not fruits but fruit peels that are juicy, they're like fresh, and then I will have to put a lot of newspaper, like maybe napkins. I also put egg cartons there and any other like paper things. So those things help to create a great balance. The third important thing is actually moisture. The composting happens in the right way when there is enough moisture. Basically, it has to be somewhat not watery, but kind of like moist. If you feel like your composting pile is too dry, what I do sometimes, I just pour some water on the upper level or water my compost pile. You can even buy certain thermometers or certain hydrometers when you can stick it in your pile and see if it's right moisture or not. I don't do these things, but if you have a giant compost pile in your backyard, you can maybe do that. So you will know when to water it. If it's too watery, let's say it rains a lot, or I live in an area where it's foggy a lot. So what happens to make it not too moist, because the worms don't like it, they don't like swimming in the water. Or let's say you have too much fruits that are moist, that create extra moist. Again, you put newspapers and it helps to solve the problem. Fourth important thing for the composting is the temperature. Obviously, if you live somewhere where it's like super hot, like extremely hot, you wouldn't be able to have a vermicomposter there because the worms will die, and snow in winter, the worms will not survive. There are like ways to cover the worms or bring them to the garage for meanwhile. So there are like different ways you can do it. Basically, if you're talking about regular backyard composting, you can do it all year long, even in winter. So even if your compost pile freezes in winter, it's still okay to keep composting. And as soon as it's unfreezes, the composting process will start again. This is about the just general composting pile in the backyard. Another thing in terms of composting is how long the process will take, you know, how fast these things will decompose. You want things to be small size, so the smaller the pieces, the better and faster they're gonna break down. Some people, what they do, they actually put all their food scraps almost in a blender or food processor and then make them small. This is gonna help them decompose things, I think, like within a certain amount of weeks. I'm too lazy for that. Not lazy, but I don't feel like this is necessary to spend my time on it. But if you want to speed up the process, you can technically do that. If you have your backyard compost pile, I would suggest to introduce some worms to it. They're called red wiggler worms because they can help to make the process faster. The cool thing about worms, you just buy a pound. I know it sounds weird buying worms by pound. You buy a pound and then these guys, they eat the composting pile and they actually multiply so fast, so eventually your compost process will happen like super quickly. That's why this thing I have like indoor, yeah, it's a vermicomposter, because obviously if I'm gonna wait for things to decompose naturally, it's gonna take forever. But because I have lots and lots of worms there, I started with a small amount of worms 2 years ago, and now every layer I have 5 or 6 layers. There are so many worms there. Also, if you're really afraid of smell, another thing to make sure you don't have any smell, the fresher the food scraps you put there, the better it is. So for example, if you have organic waste bin in your kitchen and you keep like piling up things there for 2 weeks, so something in the bottom already starts rotting, getting moldy and stuff like that. So of course, when you dump it in your compost pile, it will not look nice. But if you constantly dump things in the compost pile, like while they're still fresh, you will not have any problems with rotten things, mold. Things will start decomposing nicely without any smell. Most important part of the composting pile is, are you attracting flies? Are you attracting rodents, like let's say rats? Are you attracting raccoons if you have raccoons in your area? Are you attracting, let's say, ants? That's the problem I had in Bali. So if you put the right things in the composting pile, let's say you don't put meat and dairy, you don't put things that are too rotten already, you're not gonna have these problems. Always, like when you put some food scraps there, just cover it with something. Maybe some dry leaves, like that's what I used to do in Bali. I would just collect some fresh or dry grass and just put it on top of it, so to kind of hide it. If you get a fruit flies, that can happen sometimes if you eat a lot of fruits. Sometimes it happens to us in summer because I eat fruits like crazy. So there is a nice life hack. You can either buy a trap like this, or you can actually make a trap. That's a plastic box with some saran wrap on it. So basically what you do inside of this trap, you just put some apple cider vinegar and a drop of dishwash soap. Just mix it well. Fruit flies will be attracted by vinegar, go there, and they wouldn't be able to fly out because this thing will trap them. I know it sounds a little bit aggressive, insects killing, but I don't want to have any fruit flies just in case because it's a patio, so I keep this trap solution. Anyway, if you bury your food scraps with something, you will not have problems with flies or anything else. Okay, I guess that's it for today. Anything I mentioned in this video will be in the description below. Also in the description you will find the link to the article where I have all these tips in one file. You can even download it for your convenience. And see you in my next video. Don't forget to put thumbs up if you liked my tips, and see you in the next video.